So, since none of the new releases I've been waiting for, like Monster Hunter World, Shadow of the Colossus, or Secret of Mana, come out until a bit later this month, we're going to be sticking with the indie market for this week. More particularly, we'll be talking about Jotun, a 2015 release developed by Thunder Lotus Studios. Jotun was already starting with positive points as I got it a year ago for free when Thunder Lotus gave copies away on Steam in celebration of their new game, Sundered. Now, I'm like just about every other human being on Earth in that I like free stuff. It makes me warm and fuzzy inside to get something and not have to pay for it. So then, it was more than a little annoying when all those warm fuzzy feelings went down the shitter after the first 30 minutes, but we'll get back to that later. So, Jotun opens with Thora, our main character, drowning and waking up in the Viking afterlife. You know, with all the doom and gloom from Bloodborne, along with the psychosis on display on Overcooked, I'm starting to think there might be something wrong with me. What do you think, viewers? On second thought, don't answer that. So, our intrepid heroine dies in the opening cutscene. On the one hand, she's dead. On the other hand, things can only really go up for Thora from here. So we enter the afterlife with nothing but our wits and the knowledge that we must impress the gods in order to enter Valhalla. Knowledge we don't wake up with, however, is knowledge of how half the fucking game works. Because Jotun has no tutorial, which I'll admit was something of a red flag. Even Dark Souls had a tutorial. Granted, it was a tough-as-nails tutorial, punctuated by a boss fight about as soft and forgiving as a spike butt plug being shoved up your unlubricated asshole, but even taking that into account, it was still a fucking tutorial. Thankfully, Jotun's controls are pretty simple. Anyone who's ever played a PC game should instantly get the traditional movement controls of W, A, S, and D. However, if you're from fucking Bizarro World, and like your movements mapped to P, J, C, and fucking 7, then, lucky for you, Jotun's keys are completely rebindable. You fucking weirdo. The other controls are likewise simple enough. Your light attack is mapped to the left mouse button, and heavy attack to the right. So far, so good. Quick experimentation found out that dodge is by default mapped to the spacebar. Once I had all that down, off we went to puzzle and kill giants that were quite clearly compensating for something. And the first thing I noticed when the camera first pans out to show you the landscape is that Jotun's artwork is gorgeous. Also, the camera is fixed and will fuck you over on some puzzles, mark my words. Anyway, off we went with no fucking idea of what to do or where to go. Thankfully, Jotun's first level is fairly straightforward, and the level design quickly familiarises you with hazards and their solutions. Something that the rest of Jotun's levels do as well, as for the most part, Jotun uses its level design and puzzles to prepare the player for its boss fights. Something its levels manage to do remarkably well, as the traps and environmental hazards in levels are also present in one form or another in the boss fights. One of the things I found interesting about Jotun is that unlike some other games in which the solution would be belted over your head with exposition, solutions to such boss puzzles are related almost entirely through gameplay, relying on the player to pick up on subtle cues as well as other environmental hints as to what they should do in order to gain an advantage, which is something I really enjoy. However, despite having a lot of things I enjoy, simple but difficult to master controls, gorgeous graphics, excellent soundtrack, there's also a lot of things that can fuck right the hell off. To start with, the map screen. This isn't something I care about too much most of the time, but it couldn't have been too fucking hard to put in a "you are here" icon now, could it? The second are your god powers. Now, I like what they do for gameplay, giving you more options than just hit something and hit something slightly harder. Well, except for Thor's power. But on boss fights, hit something stupidly hard can actually be a real help. My problem is that once you obtain these, there is no instruction on how to use said god power, or how to cycle through multiple powers once you have obtained them, requiring a quick trip to the key binding page to figure out what those commands were. My problem is I shouldn't have fucking needed to do that! Yes, it's petty, but it's still fucking annoying. Oh, and the eagle level can go fuck itself. Another annoyance that showed itself early on was actually killing the first boss. The task itself wasn't that hard all things considered. Much like Dark Souls, the main challenge of boss fights comes from attack pattern memorization, but once you've managed that, it's all downhill from there. The swift kick in the daddy bags that Jotun gave me was that even though I'd killed the first boss, since my character died of a poison effect before the first boss's death animation completed, I had to fight that motherfucker all over again. To which my internal response was... So, after killing the boss again, I marched onwards, bitterly acknowledging the game was probably going to fuck me again at some point. Which is a damn shame, because as already stated, there's a lot of things I like about Jotun. But in the end, it failed to keep my attention, which as a video game, and thus an interactive piece of entertainment, is a pretty serious failing. In the end, I gave up on Jotun when something went wrong outside of the game and I had to tab out to fix it. Before I could tab back in, I couldn't help but sigh and admit that this was going to be a slog. Why are you playing this? I asked myself. Because I'm trying to put together a YouTube channel based on game reviews and Let's Play, so it's kinda my fucking job, I replied to the small voice in my head. Really? The voice in my head asked. Would you be playing it if it wasn't your job? It inquired with a sly tone. Fuck no! I responded with a laugh. I'd be playing more Dark Souls. Well, the voice in my head stated. I guess that sums up the review then. And then I did just keep playing Dark Souls instead of Jotun, because I found it a lot more fun. So yes, that sums up Jotun nicely. A well put together and good looking game, but like a particularly agile altar boy around a randy priest, it just failed to grab me.